Welcome into the Immigrant Podcast. I'm your boy, Nikolai Hill. Program is brought to you by Immigrant Apparel. Appreciate you taking the time out to be with us here today. Look, I'm disappointed. Americans have a tendency to want to break the laws, wherever they go. They feel like they write the rules to what governs this entire planet. We've seen in recent history where bullets and firearms have been taken overseas to countries like the Cayman Islands, one that I'm familiar with, and countries like New Zealand. And then you have the podcasters and the influencers who are going to countries in the Middle East and in China, and they're attempting to do things that just won't work in those countries and those jurisdictions, and they're paying the penalty for it. The person I'm disappointed in today is Chris Brown. A lot of people know, he's one of my favorite artists. Definitely my favorite artist going right now. And, he's recognized as one of the greatest of all time already at a tender age of, his mid to late 30s. And he's been a dominant figure in the music industry for 20 years. He, came into his name as a young person, 15, 16 years old, when he first got signed to a record contract, maybe younger than that, but that's when we first saw, heard the songs and saw the videos. And then ever since then, he's just ascended to greatness. Throughout his time, of course, male entertainers throughout history, you can name them: Michael Jackson, James Brown, Miles Davis. They've had their run-ins with the law locally, and at least domestically in this country. And from the names that I just said, and Chris Brown has been one of those people. Domestic situations when it comes to Rihanna and maybe another one of the mothers of his child. And then, there's been a dependency on certain things. I won't say what that is, if it's alcohol or drugs or what specific type it is, but there's been a dependency on things. But overall, he's been a good artist and not a great artist. He's been a great artist and a good individual, a decent individual that has been making hits for the entire planet for the last 20 years. But that doesn't exclude you from being an overall good person with high morals. In this case, he's been held in Manchester, England, charges of battery and abuse. And these are serious charges in England. And Americans have to realize that when you do things overseas, you're going to be held accountable at some point. If not by a civil situation where a lot of artists have gone overseas and done things and it's caught up with them financially. But in this case, Chris Brown traveled to the UK, years ago. And he got in an altercation with his producer, songwriter, studio manager, someone who was working and living, of course, a British citizen from Manchester. And he assaulted that person. And there's nothing we can say about that now. He assaulted that person with, of course, the support of the people who were around him, like his bodyguards and stuff like that. There's not much you can do back. Even if he could defend himself against Chris Brown, he can't defend himself against Chris Brown, his henchmen, and of course all his bodyguards. So that's what happened. And then to make things worse, Chris has traveled back to to United Kingdom, to Manchester, and is now being held without bond until his trial date in mid-June. And it's a deserved punishment. First of all, one thing you have to do is not punish and not hit people. Of course, you don't want to violate people just because of your own inhibitions, anything that you're going through personally or mistakes that you have made to compound the situation to make it worse. And then second of all, Americans, I'm saying this to you one more time. If you travel to a country and at first you know that you violated the law or gone against what the protocol is for that country, maybe it's not good to go back to the scene of the crime, as we may say. And that's what he did here. And that was a dumb move. That's why the fans, like myself, Chris Brown, and all the fans that I've spoken to are disappointed. And just people in general, the fact that you're violating someone's human rights by assaulting them, and then to compound it by making the dumb decision to travel back to the UK, which is not America. There are countries out there that don't operate like the United States operates, and artists and civilians in general will need to understand that. I'm going to follow up on this story because he's going to be held in a UK prison for over a month. He has a tour coming up. Tour dates are supposed to start coming up here soon. Word is this is going to be his biggest tour. Of course, he's getting older. He has more hits. He has more money. Has more support from backers and from his, of course, the people that signed him to a contract. And of course, this was going to be his biggest tour of all time. Now that's up in the air, and when it's going to start, if it's even going to go forward. So there's a lot of things that we have to figure out here when it comes to the Chris Brown situation, him being held in Manchester, England, without bond. And we're going to wait for his trial date, which is going to be in mid-June, and we'll give you another update then. For your boy, Nikolai Hill, this has been the Immigrant Podcast. We appreciate Immigrant Apparel and all the support we've been getting from everybody. See you next time.